Hey there friends and enemies, Joper here again, and today I wanted to do a preview of the brand new turn-based RPG, Sea of Stars, which launches tomorrow, and this has been one of my most anticipated games of the year, which is wild to think with all the blockbusters come out, but this one really hits home for me as a fan of the old favorites from the 90s like Chrono Trigger and others. This one is definitely inspired by them, but feels modern enough to not really feel like it's pure nostalgia bait, and I love that so much, and I'll get into why that feels like that in just a little bit. But this game will launch on PC as well as Xbox and PlayStation, with an interesting note that is going to launch on Game Pass as well as PlayStation Plus Extra at launch, so anyone can play this right away if you have either of those. And I feel like it's one of the only games I've ever seen that is doing so. And so anyone, there's no excuses to play this. There's a demo out that you should definitely check out. There's plenty of ways to check this game out to see if it's one that will fit what you're looking for. If you're a fan of turn-based RPGs, JRPGs in general, this is one that you should not be missing. So jumping into why I feel that way, the art direction, the whole environments, everything is such a nostalgic vibe, but it doesn't feel dated. That's one of the things that I've struggled with some of the remasters we've seen lately, some of the old JRPGs coming back, and other new games that are inspired by those old favorites, is they often feel like they are held back by the graphics, the art design of that era, and don't move it forward at all. Whereas for me, Sea of Stars just looks better because it does feel inspired by, but not limited to, those old JRPGs. And so the art direction is very good. I think the animation is very cool as well, and I like all of it. The set design of all of the locations, they're varied enough to keep you kind of engaged throughout the story, and I do love all of that. I think the character design as well is something that for me is very, very important. I love connecting with the main characters, the primary characters you're playing as, and are joining you on the journey. And so having that then be kind of viable, that have different attacks and abilities and all that kind of good stuff, that really is interesting and not just kind of the same thing consistently, is something that I very much look forward to in games, and I'm glad we have that with Sea of Stars. So very good overall art direction in my personal opinion. I love everything about it. Some of the bosses look absolutely sick. I won't spoil anything on any, there's no spoilers in this video at all, but some of the bosses look tremendous, and I just find that the way they've approached the art direction is refreshing to see, because it provides their own twist and isn't just limited to things we've seen in the past. So that's really cool. And yeah, the music is very similar insofar as that I really enjoy the whole vibe of the music. It definitely gets me into the game and feeling like I'm connecting to it in a way that I was not expecting whatsoever, because the game is an indie game. It's from a smaller studio, and I was worried that when I first saw it, there were going to be limitations to some of the things that we saw, as far as like the art direction, the music, and all that stuff, that felt like it was repetitive, and that is not the case. This is a solid 30-hour-ish story that just feels refreshing, because the more you go through it, the more it feels like they kind of expand upon what your expectations are, which I very much enjoy. Now, the only exception to that, in my personal opinion, is combat. I feel like at times combat can feel a little bit the same. There's not a lot going on as you get to the mid to late game, where it feels completely different from what you had seen earlier in the game. Same thing with the puzzles. Once you kind of understand them, it feels like you've seen them a couple times. They're not really too innovative after the first few that you see, but overall I think that is only a minor quibble, and ultimately the combat is fun enough, but the story, the characters, and all of that is engaging enough that it doesn't really hold the game back at all. And again, at 30 hours, it doesn't last too long like some of the games like Tactics Ogre that are closer to like 50-60 hours. Once you get to the 40-hour mark is when they can start to feel like, okay, I've seen everything, I've done everything. And by the time you feel that in Sea of Stars, you're just reaching the climax of the story, which allows you to really remain invested, in my personal opinion. Now, one thing that may take some people out of the game is the grammar and the punctuation in the game is not the best in English. And so I know there have been some complaints about that, but it is a smaller indie studio, so it's something that I think, as long as it doesn't hamper your immersion into the game, is not something that is going to hold me back personally, because the writing of the characters, the dynamic that they have, the humor, but also the stakes, all of that blends together to keep the game feeling interesting, keeping me invested, and so I can overlook those minor things that are going to happen with a game like this that is, again, 30 hours long, and you have such a smaller team that is working on it. I hope that is optimized maybe in a future patch if that does come along, because it would help out a lot of people who kind of get taken out of the game if they see mistakes like that. It kind of removes them from the world. I'm not like that, but I just wanted to forewarn people because I know there are some folks who are. And the story is something that I hope everyone is able to enjoy, because I do think it is very good, it is very impactful, and I do want people to play this game and not be taken out or feel like there's no flaws to it, because every game is going to have its ups and downs, and this is one of those cases for Sea of Stars in my personal opinion. But a lot of other things in the game make up for it, and if you can kind of overlook some of those grammatical errors and omissions, then you're going to be just fine with the game. Other than that, yeah, I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I do, because the versatility that this game has is something that I have been waiting for quite some time. I want that prime hit of nostalgia along with a modern feeling turn-based RPG that has cool characters, has interesting attacks and abilities and animations and all that kind of good stuff that I've been waiting for, but doesn't feel like it's hampered by the past. And that's one that I think is such a fine line to walk, that I have been missing this type of game for quite some time, and Sea of Stars is definitely one that I'm going to invest a lot of time into because of that. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you guys on what's your thoughts on this game. Have you played the demo, or are you looking forward to playing this one yourself? It is, again, has been one of my most anticipated games, and after getting hands-on with it a bit, it has not let me down whatsoever, so I look forward to seeing everyone else's reactions. I know the reviews online are very, very good at this point as well, so hopefully that continues and a lot of people love this game, because I'd love for it to be a massive success, so the developers can either make a sequel or another game like this in the future, because more of these games are needed in this genre that has felt like it is floating on the water right now, but not really rising to the heights that it possibly can, in my personal opinion. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, helps me out tremendously. So if you want to see more Sea of Stars content for you, I'll definitely cover the game in detail if that's what you guys want. My name is Jopa. I hope you have a good one. I'll catch you all later.